Okay, everyone, we're going to kick off. Okay, everybody, thank you for coming. My name is Steve Rowe. I'm the relatively new CEO. Oh, what's that music? Pardon? We'll cut the music. So I'm the relatively new CEO of Dallas Macedon Tourism. I don't know how long you can call yourself new for, but it's been about...
Well, I'm still calling myself new.
Oh, there you go. This is Vanessa. She started a week before me.
Exactly.
And thank you everybody for coming. So we'll probably talk for about 20 minutes or so, and then there's time at the end for questions. So just to run you through the agenda, I'm going to talk about visitation numbers at the start, which is good news. The Hepburn fires and how to respond to those from a business point of view. Our autumn magazine, so those of you who saw The Age on the weekend, you would have seen the Dallas Macedon Life, which is a quarterly publication that we put out. I'm going to talk and hopefully put to bed Live, Love, Life and the ensuing independent review into the organisation, how that's helping shape our focus for the next 18 months. Websites, so websites are a big part of what we do. There's grant opportunities around that I'm going to run you through as well. We've got, aside from me being new, we've got a relatively new board and we've got a very new chair who I'll introduce at the end. And then we're going to have a bit of an open forum, so fire questions at us, tell us what you need more or less of from Dallas Macedon Tourism. Just very quickly, my background. My name is Steve Rowe. I've been, like I said, in the role for 4 months. Prior to that, I worked for National Parks in Canberra for 3 years, pushing particularly Uluru and Kakadu, and ended up as park manager of Kakadu for a year in 2017, even though I had no park management experience. And prior to that, my whole world was the adventure travel space. So the last company I worked for was a long time at Intrepid Travel, and I was the GM of marketing for the 6 or so brands that Intrepid ran at the time. So in terms of our sort of core business, this is a bit sort of motherhood, but it's worth reminding everyone. The key metrics that we look at are increased visitation and particularly increased length of stay. So getting people to come and stay overnight and boosting the visitor economy. So that is a nice segue into the year ending September 2018 visitation numbers. So the 12 months from October 17 to September 18. And they were outstanding numbers. They were really, really good. So I'll just talk you through them. First, look up here, total travel. So we had 4.1 million visitors to the region. And I was watching something on the TV last night and they were talking about Sunshine Coast. And to put it in perspective, Sunshine Coast gets just under 3 million. So we are a very highly visited region. Fantastic growth in visitors, but the big, most exciting thing is the increase in overnight stays. So we've got a 26% increase in overnight stays, and that's where the spend is. So your average overnight visitor adds about $90 to the visitor economy. Someone who stays overnight adds $461 to the visitor economy. So it's really important that we focus on those overnight stays, and that's where we're getting the growth at the moment, which is really reassuring. We haven't, to be honest, put a lot of effort into the international market. We do a little bit in terms of promoting to the international, mainly through the Great Southern Touring Route and a few other bits and pieces. But we're getting outstanding numbers. I mean, I think it's just a burgeoning market, whether it's China or India or whatever. I mean, they're the huge growth markets for Australia. And the numbers speak for themselves, really, really strong in the international space. This is the one I'm most focused on, is domestic overnight, particularly in the Melbourne market. And again, we've had really, really strong growth, up around 20% for domestic overnight. And this is where the volume is. This is the day trip visitors, and again, pretty decent growth. So this is showing the preceding 3 or 4 years. So this is the current year, so year ending September 2018, and these are the preceding years. This is total visitors, so you can see there's quite a decent step up. Again, the exciting thing is that big step up in overnight visitation. So it's a real boost to our economy.
And how does that compare with other regions?
I'll get to that in a minute, because those numbers are meaningless in isolation, but it's a good question. I'll get to that in a minute. This is sub-region, so ignore Hume, this grey bar, because that's skewed by Melbourne Airport. So the key ones are, I'm standing away, is Daylesford, which is the green one, and Macedon, which is the beigey coloured one. And just showing that they've both got really, really strong growth. Macedon is about 12% on last year.
So the green one's Macedon?
Sorry, other way around. Green one's Macedon and this one's Daylesford. 12% growth for Macedon and 20% growth for Hepburn. So again, really good numbers. And to your question, Will, like I said, statistics in isolation are pretty meaningless. There are 4 key categories, so and we came first in 3 of those. So this is all the regions in Victoria. So the strongest in terms of domestic overnight visitation, which, as I said before, that's the key one for us because that's the big volume and the big yield. We were first in overnight international and first in international day trip as well. Mornington Peninsula beat us. They were the biggest in terms of day trip growth, so they were very, very strong, and they're doing some really good stuff as well. So good numbers and comparatively good numbers as well. So that's going well. You might have noticed there was a bit of a fire down Hepburn Way a couple of weeks ago. Fortunately, it was only a fairly small number of hectares that were burnt. But what it reminded me of is important that as an industry we understand how to react in situations like that. Like this quote says, the secret of crisis management is not good versus bad, it's preventing the bad from getting worse. Or, in other words, how to stop things from going pear-shaped. The big thing, the big takeaway, like whenever you do a presentation, people don't remember 90% of what you said, they remember at best 10. The big thing is when something like this happens, don't buy into the media feeding frenzy. When I was up in Kakadu, one of the big risks to locals and visitors and all that sort of thing were crocodile attacks. And the media loved croc attacks. And occasionally someone would do something silly, go and swim in a billabong where they shouldn't have and they'll get chomped. And I had a really strict rule that the communication only came through either me or our comms manager, because what happens is the media will go up to someone and say, oh, and then sort of excite the person and then they'll speak out of turn and it gets silly. So just pull back. First step is assessing the situation. So the key point to get your information from obviously is emergency services. So stick to the facts, get your information from them. Look at what the impact to your visitors will be. So what's operating, what's access like, what are the condition of the attractions in. So forewarned is forearmed, so make sure you get all the information and do a really careful assessment. Understand the scale of the media coverage and understand what would be the impact of the visitor. So I've always worked in tourism and my rule of thumb, use it or don't, is would I send my mum here? And that's always been my thing, is would I do it with my mother? Like, would we cancel a tour? Would we do this? Would we do that? And if it passes the mum test, then you can go ahead. Talking to media, like I said, they are really good at extracting information from you and then twisting whatever you say and making it sound really sensational. Be really careful, stick to the facts only. Be calm, make sure that you have that emotional intelligence as well, so think about the impact on visitors as well, and always be conscious of that.
So, Stu, can I just ask, having the property that was closest to the fire and having guests at my property, is there a, on the DMT website, is there a some sort of policy about what to do in an evacuation moment when you're being told to evacuate? How do you respond to that with your guests?
That's a good question, and that primarily is a local government thing. So in this case, and what this situation highlighted for me, is probably because I'm new, is that I need to have a really clear procedural document to work with the council. So, and that's appointing a media spokesperson, what the evacuation strategy is. That sits with the council, but DMT has a role to play there as well. So this was interesting. This was, so that's Hepburn General Store there, and our office, for those of you who don't know, is just about there. And this is a really dramatic photo, and this is what was just going. And so if people start sharing this, it scares the crap out of everybody, and everyone's like, oh my God, Hepburn's burning down. When it actually wasn't that bad. I mean, I was at work sitting, literally there on Monday, 24 hours later, and couldn't even see anything. So just be wary that people get excited in these sort of crises, and it's human nature to go, God, look, I'm in the middle of this is really hot. But just be mindful that in the age of social media, this stuff will literally.
And Vic Emergency don't do us any favours sometimes either. I mean, they just send out constant messages.
Yeah.
Which are
My phone was just going ding, ding, ding. Yeah. And it's human nature to sort of get a bit nervous. So you are in control of your social media channels, don't forget that. Again, I'm going to keep hammering the point, keep it brief and factual, avoid emotive language, avoid dramatic images, and get your information from Vic Emergency. Incidentally, I sent an email out on the Monday with a whole bunch of things about, my suggestions about how you manage cancellations and all that sort of stuff. It went into a lot of people's spam mailboxes because we're on a new mail service. And that will happen with industry newsletters and things like that. We're on a better mail server, but one of the problems with changing mail servers is you can go into people's spam. So just if you can, drag it out of your spam and into your inbox, and it should put us on the whitelist. Then, of course, you've got to decide whether to cancel or not. I, as I said, used to work for Intrepid Travel. We had, I've forgotten what it was when I left, it was about 300,000 passengers a year. And we would always be cancelling trips. We ran in different countries, and there'd be an uprising, there'd be a flood, there'd be something, and so we were we had no choice. The key is protecting your booking as much as possible. And the best advice I can give you is get on the front foot. So don't wait for people to call you and say what's going on with this fire. Be proactive, get on the phone and manage the conversation. So don't let it come to you. You control the conversation as much as possible. If people want to cancel, I mean, you've got to know your booking conditions, obviously, but if people want to cancel, then that's their right if they feel safe. The last thing you want to do is say, no, everything's fine. You've got to be sensitive to their needs, but try to make sure that you protect your cash flow by moving the booking, doing whatever it has to keep that customer on. And it might even be you have some sort of sweetener, be honest with them, talk to them about, look, we've got a business to protect. We'll keep your booking, adjust the date, and you get a free hamper or a bottle of wine, or just think creatively to try and hang on to that booking as much as you can. Which is kind of what I've just said here. Sweeteners can be a good idea. I'm throwing little sort of questions in throughout this presentation, and we're going to have an open session at the end. And all the organisations I've worked with in the past, we've done quite a lot of media training. We've had media training specialists come in. If that's something you think would be of use, then sing out at the end. Because at the end, I'm going to talk about what we can do to help you and push your businesses and promote your businesses better. Right, okay, that's it for the fire. Incidentally, I have begun a conversation with state government to see if we can get a funding relief. I'm just trying to quantify the impact on people's businesses. So I've got a whole heap of my business cards there. Feel free to grab one and contact me. So I need to quantify what the impact has been, and then the state government will visit Victoria, but we'll potentially put some cash in to help us promote the region. Okay, so one of the big things we do as an organisation is cooperative marketing. So these are marketing initiatives that people buy into, our operators buy into, and you get benefit directly to your business, but it promotes the broader region. This is one of the things that we do as a quarterly magazine that goes into The Age. And this was my favourite issue to date, mainly because it's the first one that I saw. And what we're doing is they're very on brand and thematic. So our theme this year, this quarter, was Autumn Harvest. And the other thing we're doing, I come from a family of journalists, and we're sort of tapping into local expertise in terms of writing the articles. Like, we used to write a lot of them ourselves, but we've had Tasca wrote a really fantastic article for us and put the recipe in. So we're trying to tap into that local expertise, because there's some brilliant people in this area with great knowledge, great passion, and that are more than happy to contribute. So we're making this very much a sort of community marketing piece, and it's got great feedback so far. So we had Ella, Bruce Burton from the Milking Yard Farm did a great thing on a great article for us. Why are we doing this? So just before I left Intrepid, we had a guy come in and talk to us about catalogues. Now, as everybody's lurching into the digital space, one of the really interesting things is catalogues are actually, there's an increase in marketing spend in catalogues, which is surprising because everyone's spending money on social media influencers and their websites and whatever. But I firmly believe there still is a place for the old school printed collateral. I mean, I'm a big fan of this. Similar to like visitor guides. I mean, we have an app and we have a visitor guide. Way more people get the visitor guide than download the app, because people can take it in the car and sit in the bath and do whatever and flip through it, and it is a real place for them. And from an operator point of view, this is a really good value in terms of getting exposure to the Age readers, who are a really good market for this particular region. The demographics align really well. So a page, we'll say, what's a half page?
Half page is 2,200.
An ad that big is 2,200. That would cost $8,000 if you wanted to do it in.
If not more than that. A full page in the Age is on a Saturday is 35,000, and a full page in this is 3,000.
Thank you, Nissa.
That's all right.
This has just come out, tasted a little touring map, so thank you for those who jumped on board with that. This is one of the most picked up items of all of our collateral that we produce. And at this point, I'm going to introduce two of my wonderful colleagues, Nissa and Melissa, which doesn't get confusing.
I know, and it happens all the time on the phone. Hi, Melissa Aguilera and Nissa. I'm standing in that way.
A&M.
And A&M.
Yeah.
Alright, so beautiful.
So, most of you probably know my face. I've been with DMR for 6.5 years.
And I've only just started, about 5, not even, maybe
Week
8,
before
a
me.
week before Steve. And I'm the Business Development Manager for DMT. So I'm here to talk about collateral and the Dallas Macedon Life Visitor Guide. So at the moment we're looking for everyone's content that has already signed up for this. We need your content, which is to go to Melissa.
Yes, I'm
Melissa's
a content girl,
yep.
and I'll collect it for not only the guide, but the regional map,
Yep.
and also the magazine. So if you need anything, look it up.
Yeah. And we've also got spaces available still in this magazine, in the visitor guide. We're probably going to print it towards the end of March at this stage. So we haven't got long. So if you're looking to advertise in this, come and see me. I can give you a card, and I'm happy to chat about the prices associated with advertising in this. But I'd get on board because it's a yearly subscription. seasonally are these magazines, but this is yearly. Nearly all of our collateral is annual, seasonal mags.
And also DMP. As you know, the tasting map came out, and so we do have collateral. So if you're in need of them, please contact me.
And the other thing with DMP, if you are a DMP partner, at the moment we're looking for content for our website, as Steve spoke about. It's one of the things we're focusing on at the moment. If you have any articles about your business and you're a DMP partner, please share it with us. Also, if you've got any reviews or recipes, we would like to upload them. If you'd like to share anything with us, we'd be happy to put it on the website. There's a lot of traffic heading there at this point because it's a big ad on the back of the magazine that just was inserted in the Age. So there's lots of traffic, and there's been a massive increase in traffic to the website. So if you're wanting to be a part of it, please let me know. And you can send me the recipes and we'll upload them, and they'll feature on the homepage as well. So as soon as you go to that website, you'll see it on the homepage. So a great opportunity for businesses.
If you're a member and you want to update your listing, there's a link I can provide you. And contact me.
Melissa's good at that. Beautiful. And we're going to talk about the winter magazine. So the winter magazine we're selling at the moment as well. So that's, we're already in the throes of starting to put together the articles with a focus potentially around the arts side of things. This was obviously produce, looking at arts, but there will be other articles there as well that cover off. But if you're looking to advertise, we're selling that pretty quickly. So please, once again, come and see me, and I can send you a prospectus on it.
Sorry.
No, you're right, Diane. Oh, yeah.
So if there's any new businesses opening around you, we would love to hear about it. And even if you could suggest us to them, that'd be even great. The more support you give us, the more support we can give you. So any recommendations would be very much appreciated. We also have a new project that we have Jodie Flockhart from Salt. You might know about Jodie. That Denise has been working with.
On a new project that we're yet to get funding for, but if we don't get funding, we're hoping we'll be able to do that and still provide it through our partners, our paying partners, and you can sign into it. Basically, it will, what did we say here? Sorry, darling.
Oh, sorry, it's just my terrible writing.
Sorry, that's my fault as well. Sorry.
We are looking for funding for this, but however, it's such a great project that we want to do it ourselves, and there's a lot of operators that can be involved. There is more about it with later on. Steve's got more info, so and a little video from Jodie also.
It's a good way to build your brand and your marketing through this digital social media side of things. So, yeah.
Also, on another note, with a lot of partners, there's also ATDW codes that you need for your Visit Victoria listing. So please, if you don't know your code, or anything else that you need, I'm happy to forward your emails to whoever they do need to go to. But any inquiries, I'm happy to help you. No problem. See you from us.
And see us after.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Okay, where am I? Right, live, love, life. So, this is, I'm going to talk, ever since I started I've been completely transparent about this whole thing, but I really want to put it to bed. We've had a independent review into the organisation that's come, which we welcomed, and it's given us some really good recommendations about where we can operate better. So it all predated me, so I can speak to this sort of unemotionally. The way I see it is, it was a really good concept. The concept of having a wellness event was sound. It came from a really good consultant as part of a range of recommendations. However, my view on festivals is that they should start small and they should grow over time. They need to grow organically. I think what happened here is it probably tried to be too big and too broad and too much too soon, and as a consequence the board made the decision to scale it right back and just run a series of local events. The reason they did that is the downside risk of running the event and not getting the ticket sales would have sunk DMT. So I think it was the right decision, as painful as it was. It hurt us from a financial and reputational point of view, but that was our problem. What it also did is it really knocked a lot of our operators around, and that's what the most important thing from my point of view is, which is why I've always been really open up front and transparent about it. The other thing is, I mean, we are not an event manager. We're an event facilitator, an event promoter, and throwing this in, I think, was outside our remit personally. That's the new CEO's view. When it was camp, you can use the word cancel or scale it back. We still ran the event, and effectively from Visit Vic's point of view, it was cancelled. The first thing I did was make sure that our partners were looked after. So there was the Palais across the road, there was a local circus group, even the people who made, I don't know where it is, these bags. So some wonderful volunteers put these together. So we paid for them, and then we donated them to the local charities. So, you know, I made sure as best I could that we looked after local operators. It still had a fairly significant impact on us and others, and I acknowledge that. So Visit Vic commissioned an independent report into DMT, which, like I said, we welcomed. And I'll talk about that in a moment. But the other thing I just wanted to say is that we did end up running the event, and we got 1,600 tickets sold, so it wasn't a complete disaster. So, EY, Ernst & Young, as they were formerly known, conducted an independent review into DMT, and there were a bunch of recommendations. There were about 9 that replied to us and about 4 or 5 that replied to Visit Vic. And I've kind of bunched them all together just to give you an idea about what the feedback was for us and how we're going to implement the changes. Because one thing I am as a CEO and a manager is I am as open as I am legally enabled to be. So I'm going to be completely honest with you guys, because this is a partnership situation. So the first recommendation, I've grouped them all together, was better governance, better finance management, better reporting, in-house finance capability, don't deviate from your core business, and have a strategic plan that has a budget behind it. So what that has meant for us is we are very much running a back to basics approach to DMT, focusing on what we do well, which is collateral, co-op marketing, supporting our operators. The second thing for, I think, the team was DMT had a really good track record. I mean, it really performed well, and we're just going to go back to what we do well. We have a great finance and risk subcommittee. We'll talk about the board a little bit later, but we've got some real strength, particularly in the finance space on the board. We're bringing someone in-house to help with the financial side, because I'm a good marketer, I'm a good tourism person, I'm not a brilliant finance guy, so we're going to get someone to sit alongside me. We've developed an 18-month strategic plan, which again, like I said, is the key thing, is back to basics. They recommended that where possible we manage expenses and trim where possible, so we put together a 19-20 budget with a bunch of different scenarios depending on what cash flow it does. All of them are pretty sound, and I think DMT is financially stable now. We've managed to reduce costs, but mainly that was to do with staff attrition, so someone left shortly after I started, which I'm going to do anyway, I didn't take it personally. And a few other people have cut back their hours, and that has helped our bottom line. And I'm making that sort of slightly facetious comment. And I've just cut all extraneous costs. So we've got rid of the cleaner, we've got rid of the gardener. So every Sunday I take my mower down and mow the lawn, do the weeding and everything, because that's what we needed to do to get back on track. The big thing for me was stakeholder relationships. I mean, they were damaged as a result of Live Love Life. But in a sense, there were issues beforehand. So one of the things I'm going to focus on is really working much more closely with the local councils, with Regional Development Victoria, and make sure that we have a really strong relationship. And it's a new organisation. I'm new. We've got an almost entirely new board, and a few of the board members are here today, and I'll introduce the new chair in a moment. So it's a sort of fresh face to the organisation. Right, now there's time for questions at the end, so feel free to bring up anything with Live Love Life or anything else. Now, websites. So one of the things that we do well, and one of the things that was kind of I guess, a byproduct of Live, Love, Life, is I worked really closely with Visit Victoria. So Visit Victoria were absolutely brilliant in the whole process. They've been really supportive. They want to see us succeed. And I immediately built quite a strong relationship with the CEO and his team. And DMT's access to Visit Vic is one of the best things we can offer to our operators. So, like some other regions, we see classes and workshops, for example, as a really key thing that visitors are interested in. So this magazine, people who ran classes and workshops, we would have, I think it was a page or 2 page, and these are little organised, these are people often doing it out of their sort of back shed kind of thing, so we didn't charge people for that, but we've had 40-something different classes and workshop people that we've promoted in the magazine because we think it's a great product, and we'll be doing it at cost. And we've been banging on to Visit Vic about making sure that they give us a tile on the Dalsford-Macedon section of the website, for example. So we push really hard to promote different businesses with Visit Vic. So as I said, this is a new section. It's something that's getting a heap of traffic, something people are really interested in.
So do you need to pay to be on that?
This, if you've got an
ATDW code.
Oh no, you just said that the ones that are going in...
The ones in the
magazine
magazine
are
free.
were
Okay,
free. And Visit Vic, if you've got an ATDW code, then they're only $2.95.
$2.95,
Then you're on.
What we're encouraging though is for people to become partners as well, because we can look at other opportunities to promote your business via PR opportunities and things like that. So.
Just some examples of some of the people that are getting promoted. We've just revamped this as well. So Dalsford-Macedon Produce is one of the sort of sub-brands that we promote. And this is a really good opportunity for producers particularly. So this has just been revamped after the weekend. Dalsford-Macedon Produce probably hasn't had the love it should have in the last 12 months, but it's something we're getting a lot more focus to. For example, we stuck a slightly phallic looking ad on the back of the magazine on the website. But the key thing is, so anyone who's a Dalsford-Macedon Produce member, just send us as much information as you can. If it's events, new info, if you've got recipes, all that sort of stuff. Because anyone who knows anything about digital marketing is about keeping content fresh, and that's what gets you SEO rankings up and all that sort of stuff. That's the events page, so we'll just really, the more events we can get on there, the better, so just keep it coming. We haven't got too much longer to go. I'm starting to lose my voice a little bit. My kids have been sick, and I think I've copped it, but there's a bunch of grants and programs out there. I've got, I'm not going to keep walking in front of the projector, but I've got some printouts of this, so come and grab them, and I've got a pile of business cards. So there's money out there. It's worth trying to get your hands on it. This is an interesting one for those of you who are interested in tapping into the international market. So how to work with ITOs, which is inbound tour operators, understanding international trade, pricing, all that sort of stuff. It's a free course. I think from memory it's 5 days and run out of Ballarat, but all the information is there. So if you're interested in international marketing and getting your head around that, come and talk to me, or I've got the printout of all the info there. Free course. Some of you will be facing this, navigating red tape. So this is another course with a bunch of different modules. This is how to, if you're butting up against sort of regulatory barriers, then this is a great opportunity to understand how to sort of navigate those. And again, I've got a printout of those. Really, really worthwhile if you struggle with bureaucracy. This is a leadership course. Again, it's free. It's 5 days on Fridays. Again at Ballarat, and this woman is an expert in telling people about leadership. So if you've got a bigger organisation, you want to get leadership skills, it sounds really, really good to me. And those of you who got my email from 2 or 3 weeks ago, there's a few other grants out there. REF, Regional Events Fund, get on board with that if you're running an event. They're pretty good. I think it's up to about 20 grand. And Creative Vic. So social media program that I'm going to talk to you about in a sec, I've actually put in an application for this for 20 grand. I think this is a really good one. So if you've got a great creative idea that promotes the region, there's $2,000 to $20,000 in grant funding up for grabs. Okay, now this is Jody, and I hope this works. I'm not very good at the tech. So, oops. The speaker's not plugged in. Try that again. It's working before. It doesn't matter.
No.
Okay, so that was Jodie Flockhart. She was on
Chatting.
some program. What was it? Home and Away or one of those?
Yeah, one of those. Neighbours.
So Jodie is someone we work with really closely, and she's brilliant. She's just a wonderful, wonderful person to work with. And she just did a video saying how much she likes us and talking about this campaign that we've been working with her on. It's just a concept at this stage, but what we want to do is do a content gathering exercise that will be pushed through social media. So say you are a small business, what we're going to do is come to you and there's an opportunity. So the campaign is called Hidden Gems, and what it is unlocking small local businesses that have a story to tell. Because the difficult thing about this region is there's not really very many big businesses. So a lot of my counterparts, CEOs of other regions have these huge multinational businesses that just throw piles of cash at them, whereas we've got little villages, little businesses, which is charming and which is part of the appeal of the region, but it means that there's not these sort of big fish that can help support the tourism board. So, we're going to run this campaign called Hidden Gems. Visit Vic is really, really excited about it. They're going to link it with their Happy Space campaign, which is pushing people into regional Victoria. And again, that's about unlocking the secrets of regional Victoria. So what we'll do is we'll showcase these little businesses. There might be a little baker in Castlemaine or some artisanal producer in Woodend or Kyneton or whatever. And we'll profile them. We've got a videographer and a photographer. And we will create this great little video and a series of photographs and push them out through Instagram via a competition, push people to their website and to ours, and the operators will get 10 high quality photographs and some video as well to use for their own promotional purposes. So it's great from a marketing point of view because we'll push it hard through Instagram and Facebook, but what it'll do is operators who normally could never afford to get professional photography and videography done, we will get that done at a really, really low price, small, maybe $1 or $2 grand, depending how much funding we get, and you'll get this fantastic promotional collateral. So we're pushing that out through our email, industry email pretty soon, and keep an eye out for that. So I'm almost done. I said I'm losing my voice, but I am pleased to introduce to you Andrew Dick, who as of a week ago became the DMT chair. So Noel Harvey, who'd been in the role for quite some time, lovely guy, he's always been really supportive of me. He is still on the board, but he has stepped down as chair because he's got lots of things on his plate out at Maryborough and what have you. And Andrew has kindly agreed to step up as chair. I just want to introduce Andrew, and you can introduce yourself to everybody else.
That's the best round of applause to know. Thank you. Thank you very much indeed. I moved here 23 years ago. I just turned this off here. We've brought our family from Scotland, and it is the most fantastic area to live in. And at the interview for being a director, I demonstrated my commitment by saying, it's so good here, we've bought our plot at Macedon. So $1,000 last year. I'm a Scotsman as well. You don't sound like it, but I thought $1,000 spent now was pretty well spent as well. Again, the prices going up by the year. So a little bit of, Steve asked me to say a little bit about my background. I basically was brought up on a farm in Scotland. I've got a great interest in the country, essentially, and that's what attracted my family, to this area. And through being in this area, I was on the tennis club for 8 years, on the committee, I'm on the football club. It's just a passion for the area and the community. And we listened here tonight to Steve's explanation about all the multiple businesses that we have here. That's what we're about. We're actually about trying to provide a forum and a community with lots of different partners, the Shire Councils, Visit Vic, attended the meeting, the pre-meeting meeting today, where all the various key stakeholders got round here sharing their programs in a very open manner. And it's all about trying to make it better for all of us. That's what it's about. So, my background was I actually, when I came here, actually ran a company called the Australian Fresh Fruit Company, set it up for 15 years. And it was about the leading fruit growers from all around Australia realising actually there wasn't really a point in just being individuals. They could gain more, they could be themselves, but they could collaborate and actually gain a lot more through collaboration. And just to tell you a little bit of fun about my surname, look, I am a Dick. Okay? So not only I'm a Dick, but once the RACV, they sent through the membership renewal for our insurance to the company, and rather than putting Australian Fresh Fruit Company, they put Australian Fresh Root Company. So every time I used to go to Western Australia a lot, and it used to be pretty prickly turning up in the meetings over there, and I always used to sort of pull something out of the bag about my surname, but that's my one for you here tonight. But on a serious note, this time last year we might have been, Liz was, and I gather other people, putting in applications for being directors of this board. And I actually remembered seeing the application for Judith's job 4 or 5 years ago when I was sort of transitioning my work, and thinking how that would be really attractive. And it's very, it's pretty difficult to be thinking about Judith's situation. And we got interviewed for our job, and they said, "Oh, by the way, just to let you know, our CEO is not here, and might well not be here." So there's been a very tricky time for everyone involved, and which actually got trickier. But my point is to say to you, there is a very, very enthusiastic board, incredibly enthusiastic board. Not just enthusiastic, they are top of the pops of their skills and endeavour of getting DMT back on thing. We've got Liz here, who's the board director of CVGT. That's just lots of experience in running boards. We've got Michael Woods, who spent 15 years working for Macquarie Bank. He lives on virtually the highest house on Mount Macedon. He's seriously switched on in the financial area around project finance. We have Louise, who's CEO of a sort of member organisation, which is essentially what DMT is. It's a member. I know we don't have members, but essentially we have a lot of stakeholders who want to receive benefit from what DMT does. So she is absolutely brilliant. We have Kim Whitehouse, who has stayed on the board, and she offers an excellent background. Noel has agreed to stay on the board and brings the corporate knowledge. So we really do. There's a very, very committed lot of people on the board. I can absolutely assure you of that. And the other thing is, we've got a great team. So, in actual fact, if you're the board member, you might turn up once a month, probably be more than that for us. But these guys, it's their livelihood. And, you know, we are so lucky having Steve come along. We interviewed him remotely. You might see he hasn't got a suit on. He put on a suit for us in his first interview, and I've never seen one since. But honestly, but we are all very lucky to have somebody of Steve's expertise to come here to guide a really good team here that, in our way, we will deliver in conjunction with the Shire Councils, in conjunction. It's all about partnership. So that's my little word of what I wanted to say. We are absolutely 100% committed to this. And in the past 2 weeks, we've had joint meetings with Visit Vic and the Shire Council CEOs, and they've gone very well. And I can assure you there's a lot of commitment there to make sure that we remain number one. That's our objective. We want to remain number one. And what is it? 2 out of 3 stats? Well, it's
3 out of 4.
Next year it's 4 out of 4. That's Steve's KPI. So thank you very much for coming tonight. And one thing I really do believe in is in an environment where we're talking about partnership, you know, we want the truth. We don't want things said in the back corner. So if there's things that you really believe and you want to, you know, say it constructively. Don't leave it on the table, please. Having said that, as Steve said, we've had this live life thing. To be honest, we've sort of got to move on a bit with it. There's nothing most of us in the group can do about it. We weren't involved in it, and hindsight's an absolutely fantastic thing. To be honest, you know, we shouldn't have done it, whatever, but that happens all the time. In business, that happens all the time. Is people, you make mistakes or don't quite get the right, and the important thing is to learn from it and to move on. And these guys here, I really do take my hat off to them. So thank you, and let's move on and be 4 out of 4 next year. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. And look, from my side, I've got an incredible board that I report to. They're really high calibre. They keep me honest, and they really, really help me out. They fill my shortcomings as well. They're really good. Now we've got half an hour or so, and this is time. We've got plenty of time to mingle. But if there are things that you want to throw up at me, I'll answer the easy questions, and Andrew can answer them. But I just wanted to get a couple of things on your radar. So the board is pretty much new, other than a couple of people, and we have 4 spots available. 2 of those will be allocated to local government, and 2 are going to be allocated to industry. So at some point fairly soon, I'm going to put an expression of interest out there for 2 spots. Probably one from this side of the region, Macedon, Woodend, Kyneton side, and one from sort of Daylesford, Hepburn side, to sit on the board as people with skin in the game who are innovative and passionate about tourism, so who can keep us honest and throw ideas out there. So that will be coming out soon. We would love to get some real guns on the board. A question I have, it's just a perennial question for all of you. What skills do you want to develop? I mean, of course, trying to increase visitation, all that is part of our key objectives, but supporting industry is another big part of it as well. So we run an annual conference, and it's on the 7th of May, and I'm going to run a series of smaller satellite events, and these will be skills building courses. So if there are things that you want to learn more about, I mentioned media training before, and a few people sort of nodding pretty vigorously. Understanding social media, could be website design, digital marketing, how to apply for awards, how to apply for grant funding. want to get an understanding of what you want, because if I don't know, then I'm flying blind. So skills building is an important part of what we do. And as well, what can we DMT? I mean, what can we do more of? What can we do less of? Now, we're not going to solve any of that tonight, but I'm more than happy for either any of these topics or anything else. Can be live our life, could be whatever. Throw it out there. And has anyone got any questions, any comments on this? It's over to you guys now.
With your conferences and seminars and that, is there any allowance to, I don't know, offer cliff notes for those of us that just can't get there? I mean, we all run our own businesses.
Yeah.
Getting the time out is always the problem I hit.
Yeah.
Weekend courses are our main.
Yeah. Everything runs on weekends. Everything I do runs on weekends. Is there any sort of space for, I don't know, a video of it, or even just the dot points of them, or?
That's a really good idea. Yeah.
As Steve has only had 4 months.
That's all right.
In previous ones, every workshop that we do on the sidelines, we do have a presentation for, and it is available for
cool.
whoever wants it. Also, we set it for a Tuesday because a lot of operators
We open 7 days.
are closed usually on Tuesdays. However, yes, and we will be recording it.
Cool.
So
Where are they on the website?
Are they on DMT's website, or?
no, it's not on the website. We provide it to you.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
And look, we can explore the idea of online training modules as well. If I work with Visit Vic, that might be something they can be supportive of as well.
I have a comment and question. The comment around bushfires. I think the information coming out was really good. Cancelling bookings, how to handle that. Very good for businesses that do things. There was an email that was back from Visit Victoria today from Peter Bingaman saying that he was working closely with regions about bushfires, the anniversary last Saturday, and about getting the message out that it's open for business. What's the strategy for hotels and restaurants?
Specifically in relation to the fires?
Specifically about Hepburn, because I noticed that the bushfire warning was taken down about 9 days. And there hasn't been a message out there now that I've seen.
Yeah, look, that's a good question, and I spoke to so there's a guy that works for the state government called Stuart Topless, who he's the expert in crisis management. And so I spoke to him obviously over the weekend while the fires were happening, and then on the Monday. And we formed the view that because the fire was relatively isolated, relatively small, and didn't really have any significant impact on tourist infrastructure, we took the approach of just subtly putting out through social media just normal images of Hepburn and around. So rather than an overt campaign like nothing wrong, nothing to see here, we just went, well, the media cycle's going to move on, people will move on. I mean, Trump will do something stupid and then, whatever.
The feedback that I've heard from people in Melbourne is that they think houses are lost.
Yes.
Infrastructure is lost. They say, is your house still okay?
Right.
We got the same thing.
That's what I've heard from people in Melbourne. Leave
Because
that message is out there.
and that goes to Steve's point earlier about remembering only 10% of what you hear on the presentation. So I've had a couple of calls from people saying, "Oh, is your house still okay? Can we still stay there?"
We're the same. We get people asking, "Is the house they booked for Easter still there?" Of course it's still there. But it's still, the vision of the fire.
Yeah, it needs to be. Leaders can't write down, even talk about it. I reckon.
But see, social media, anyone can get on this. Lots of local people who have put up.
Yeah, but they're not actually looking
exciting
for it. So what
photos.
pops up, it needs to pop up more often.
Yeah.
But nothing damaged, no one was hurt. A bit of bushfire. A bit of bushfire. People need to be told. We contacted you the day after and said, "Oh my God, why haven't you done something? Why haven't you told everyone?" The fire's over.
Is there a way to get it onto those disgusting morning shows, or that everything is okay, the house isn't gone?
So what I'll do is I'll talk to Visit Vic, so their head of communications and corporate affairs. I'll give them a call in the morning and see what support they can give us. But yeah, I mean, there was logic behind my approach.
I get that.
It was don't give it oxygen. So
Yeah.
But
And I think there would have been a lot more publicity if Hepburn had burned down, to be honest. So people really
And you do
are
have
not
to be
thinking.
mindful, and I think you do have to be cautious. And there's absolutely no problem with saying to people, just absolutely being honest and say, yes, there is a fire here, and maybe if they're coming up on Saturday, maybe they should postpone
Once
their
it,
visit.
once it was controlled,
Yeah.
everyone should have been told. I don't know if there's still floods in Queensland. It's the same thing. It's like,
It's the
should we
same
go and
thing.
book a holiday in Queensland? Oh no, there's floods.
Mm,
You know,
absolutely.
they should be telling us,
Yeah.
no, that's all.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe
Yes.
it's not.
Yes.
Some
It's
of
the
the
same
customers
thing.
at the Black
It is.
Saturday
They need to be
reinforced
told.
the fact
Because
that
they
they
always
should
worry about
they
it
should
goes
raise
out.
it.
It's gone.
Exactly.
You're right.
The anniversary of Black Saturday was added to
Added,
it.
yeah, everyone
Yeah.
did add to it.
So the PR side of it, that's one bit, and I'll address it with the government tomorrow. But what about business-wise? So, and I've spoken to a few operators and tried to understand the financial impact.
February
You
was
guys?
quiet. February was
Yeah.
quiet compared. I mean, all our big houses were fully booked, but the smaller houses, which is the last minute bookings,
The couples and the
a
small
lot of them were
groups.
empty. So definitely.
As a result of the fire, or because
As a result of the fire, the emails would come through, and that would be the overwhelming question was, are the fires still on?
How long did that last?
It's still now.
We still get some,
We still get people talking about
questions
it
through
now.
it, but
Yeah.
a lot of ours are way forward our bookings anyway.
Yeah, yeah.
But still, people booking in Easter next year, March next year, said, oh, well, is it okay? Will the fires be still alright? Like,
No,
that's-
People are stupid.
no, but they're our customers too, right? So you've got to think about how they think about it.
They want to be told. They want to be told that it's safe.
Yes.
That's all they need. They just need to be told. Yeah.
And look, people,
We don't know who their customers are. I mean, the new customers.
bookings.
No, but I mean, these new bookings we're talking about. We're talking about new bookings. Yeah, no, but it's much bigger than that. It's not only us, it's everyone. It's you guys. It's everyone. Sorry?
We're excited, we don't have a done.
No, that's right. That's right. It's the new people coming to town. It's whether they decide, will we go to Dalesford? Oh, gee, there might be a fire. Will we go to Rye? Or will we go to whatever? That's all.
We'll go to the beach, there's no fire down there.
We're doing the best we can, and we do contact our people, but we think there needs to be something done higher up.
See, why River's still having trouble now down there,
Yeah.
right? And you can still get, like, they are struggling a bit, the operators down there, we know a lot of them, and they have a lot of
This is
issues
ongoing.
still.
This is a bigger
There's no fire, but people won't go down there because of that fire. And I think we're very lucky we didn't get burnt out.
Yeah, absolutely.
And anyone in the whole area,
No
there's
one.
fires everywhere else.
No
So
one.
Blackwood,
No one.
everything.
There was lots of resources thrown at that far out. That's very good. Very well managed.
So
okay. So any other accommodation people got a comment out before we move on to the next point? Yes, sir.
It's accommodation. I was quite amazed at the amount of money people spend if they stayed overnight compared to day trippers. I just wondered about infrastructure for the future and with respect to people who come up here, there's going to be huge growth in electric vehicles, and with respect to electric vehicle charging infrastructure in the next 5 to 10 years.
good point.
Where's that going to come from? From local government or from destinations, etc. Do you have a plan for that?
It's a very good question, and the answer is no, I don't. Obviously, I'm mindful of the fact that there is a big increase in that space. Dalesford, Vincent Street does have a little plug-in thing, which I was surprised at.
And radio screens, yeah.
Source mining's got 3, I think. Source mining's got 3, Tesla. 4.
In answer to your question, so the meeting that Andrew referred to that we had before this, it hadn't happened for about a year, but we had our first destination management forum, and that's me pulling councils and Regional Development Victoria and a few operators together and look at exactly this sort of stuff. So we'll add that to the agenda for the conversation. Someone else had their hand up.
I just want to ask a couple of questions. Is Live Love Love going to run again this year? Or it's not now?
Look, that's something I'm actually keen to get feedback on. So the event we ended up running was probably closer to what the initial intent was. So what DMT did is just acted in a promotional capacity. So our operators ran a series of yoga workshops and food as medicine, and all these different really quite interesting events. But they were run and all the money went to those operators, and we just purely worked as a promotional entity. I do not want DMT to be an event manager. I'm not going to say ever again, but certainly in the foreseeable future. I don't think it's our place to run events. However, if there's an interest among people in the wellness space to have a weekend of wellness and they run a bunch of events within their businesses and we act in a promotional capacity, I think that's something I'd be very interested in talking about. But I want to get an understanding from you, the operators, whether that's something you'd be interested in. So, do you have a view on that?
A broader concept, not just wellness. I know there's food, music, wellness, and arts or whatever. But a broader concept of what Live, Love, Life really could be, I think would be wonderful if there was a weekend festival of that. But obviously it needs a professional event manager to bring that about, and that obviously needs money. So I don't know how that could actually happen, but I think it would be great for this region because it would be very different to what happens in the other region. And it focuses on those streets, but bringing more to it. I know these Live festivals actually are run overseas.
Yeah, and as I said when I was talking about it, I think the concept was good. The execution wasn't bad, but for whatever, for a number of reasons it all fell over. So what I might do, what I suggest is I convene a small committee, a small group, just to get it on the agenda and brainstorm it, because the last thing I want to do is sit there in my office and go, and think about this idea without really workshopping it with operators. So what I will do is in the next industry email, I will put a call out for a get together to explore that further, because as I keep saying, the concept was good, it just didn't execute well.
Steve, but it was very Dalesford centric though.
Yeah, I was going to say.
It was very Dalesford centric, and so up in Parton there was nothing for this side of the room.
This would be cross-regional, and I think I'm supremely conscious of that.
Yes, it clashed without neighbour.
Yeah, that was made amply clear to me by Margaret. Yeah.
Why can't we have seasonal?
Within the month, I will send something out, and we'll get a brains trust together.
The other question is where is the Destination Management Process at? So we heard a lot about that for a while, and I thought it was a great process. But I'm just wondering, where is it at now?
So the DMP, the Destination Management Plan, came up with a number of recommended projects. So what DMT, again this predates me, but it is what it is. What DMT did is run a number of feasibility studies. So for example, Upper on the Lake, the Mineral Springs infrastructure project, and a wellness resort. So they've now gone to RDV, so Regional Development Victoria, who are trying to access the funding. So your question's a good one in the sense that not much had happened in the last little while because of organisational challenges that Andrew referred to and other reasons. I've got those back on the agenda as of this afternoon with the first meeting, so I'm talking with councils and RDV to try and breathe life into these projects. It's too early for me to say where they're at, but by the next industry briefing I'll definitely have more to say on that. You had a question, Mary?
I think it might be quite good to have, as you were saying, a collaboration. Send out an email to find out what we think. Rather than the Live, Love, Life, to me, it seemed to be that it's already a foregone conclusion. So we already had two big players in the game, and so they already had their own agenda. and nobody was really consulted as to the small business people were not consulted as to what what our input could be, and I absolutely agree it should start small. And my idea is that maybe we could have seasonal events to be able to
smaller, more often.
yeah, we could, and I think it would be fantastic. I've thought this ever since I've been up here to close. This is Dalesford because that's where we live. Is to close down the main street once a season, so you could hook into things like the Melbourne Cup, and you could have fashion parades going down the main street. You could have music. You could tap into all those kind of things. The book, The Words in Winter. There's a whole. You could hang that on the seasons, and that could be done throughout the region. Really, it's not a difficult thing.
Yeah. So your message is consult.
Yes, absolutely.
And have a broad, have a focus.
Which is what you were saying, collaboration. You were saying collaboration. It actually needs to go to all that.
Yeah. And the great thing about living in our region is you feel the seasons. If you're in the city, and I was a city boy until 3 years ago, you don't really, geez, it's cold. You said that's as much as you notice the seasons, but they're so evident here, so I think that's a really good idea.
What are you guys doing to try and make it so Macedon Ranges City Council, they
just don't seem to want to play. Like Hepburn seems to be a bit more helpful. I don't know where in Kyneton, but
you ask the council something, you might not get a reply for 6 weeks. We waited 6 months because they went on maternity leave.
They have improved recently, but the tourism department seems to be 2 people that are part-time each, and they're doing a good job individually, but there's nobody there.
And if you ask for advice or anything like that from the council, they go, oh, that's not our department. And this might be something like, there's a pothole out the front of my thing and there's no longer access because the road's flooded. And they go, that's not our problem.
And we talk to you later.
Just in case you didn't work out, Sue is from the UK team. And I'm not going to comment on the council, but...
Just seems hard to get information out of them is the thing.
What I will say is that...
I have a business in Hepburn and
oh, okay. I'm sorry, people in Hepburn.
So what I am doing is engaging much more strongly with the council and bringing things like this to various forums. So keep talking to me.
They just don't seem to ever know what's going on either. Like they seem to have no idea what you guys are doing, and they don't seem to know what they're doing.
What council does this?
They've really tried to hinder Lost Trades Fair. I mean, that brings 15,000 people to the Macedon Ranges, and they've just been so difficult for the principles of that organisation.
So there are processes with everything. I had a boss at National Parks, and she said, "Process is your friend." It's words that I've remembered. There is a visitor economy strategy that's out there, and they're inviting comment on that. I mean, there are channels that it's an appropriate way to provide feedback. These forums are certainly a good place to raise them. I can't do anything about what council decisions, but having said that, working with Will Rayner, who's put together he's one of the architects of the visitor strategy, and Sue, I mean, from my side, they've been good to deal with, but we need to work more closely together. Use the right channels. So this visitor economy strategy, provide your feedback there, then it's documented, then it's public. So that's what I recommend. We've got a bit of time left. There's time to mingle or buy another drink from these beautiful people. Does anyone have any...
Is it worth having Sue explain what's happening and the commitment to the tourism? Because it's quite substantial.
Well, we've just done a visitor economy strategy, as Steve was saying.
Excellent, all right.
And we put that was consulted widely with industry, and we had a visitor economy reference group that I think there may be a few people here that were on that reference
Is this
group.
the one that had the meeting like last week or the week before or something?
It's going to a council meeting next week, council briefing next week, and then it'll go to council meeting on the 27th of March. Fingers and toes crossed it gets adopted. It was on our website on the Have You Say section of the
Yeah,
website.
we do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So did you put?
Yep.
Yeah, that's great.
We
thank you.
definitely did that for you.
So we're working on that now. It's got a lot of work, once the strategy is adopted, that's just the beginning of the workload, and there's a whole lot of work to be implemented as a result of that. And I know sometimes it's difficult to know who to speak to at council when you've got an issue. But if you ask to come through to the Economic Development and Tourism Department,
you guys have certainly improved recently.
we'll do our best to
definitely say that you have really improved.
Oh, that's good to hear. But yeah, I'll give you my card later, and if you've got anything particular, just give me a call or email.
Thank you, Sue. I've got a bunch of business cards up here. Grab them, call me anytime. And I spoke about grants earlier. I've got printouts of the grant information up here. So there's just as a reminder, there's the international mentoring programs for those who want to get more savvy with your international marketing. There is the leadership one, and then there's also the red tape, navigating the red tape, all of which are pretty useful for small businesses, I think. So I'll pop them on this table next to the data projector, along with my business card. Feel free to grab them. Does anyone have, there's time for one last question. Anyone, or are we done?
I just say I've been dealing with Steve. I rang him up a while back, and we rang him up again on the day after the fire. But anyway, he's very good to deal with. He's very open, and ring him up because he's very, very approachable and he jumps to it.
And he's going to pay you the
Yeah, that's good. No, he's very approachable. Much better than the last group that were there. So I'm just going to say that.
Thank you, Tony. All right, everybody.
Can I just ask you guys, how often for these meetings, what's the best way to make them work well? So how's today's meeting gone? Have you learned something that you didn't know? Has it added value?
These meetings are excellent.
Yeah.
You should initiate them, they must keep going.
Yes.
They're fantastic.
Yeah. So the frequency?
It's once a month, is it once a
Quarter.
Once a quarter?
No, once a month would be good. We should really, shouldn't we? Not a stupid idea.
Once a quarter?
3 months is a long time.
You don't think once a quarter is enough?
Once every 2 months. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
We do it for you guys, so if you want them every 2 months, we'll do them every 2 months.
And the venue?
Right?
Yeah.
Well, it's good to have rotating venues.
So it's good to see different venues?
Yeah.
We share.
Okay.
We do share. We share it across the whole kitchen.
Thank you, by the way.
So
fantastic.
So the format of a bit of chat, that's good?
We do the chat at the end.
Yeah, chat the end.
Yeah, can we not have the half an hour chat at the start so we can get home and eat dinner if we have to?
So, do you want to just kick off straight away?
Yeah.
So networking,
Yeah,
window, we'll just we do it at the end. Okay, suits me, I've got a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old.
So keep it a little bit more brief.
Yeah. We all get here after the fire. Everyone's stirring and chatting.
I
get the same exposure, less than people get. Right, so it's like the cost.
Activity studio, and so we are trying to get every weekend workshops going. I've got a number every Saturday we have a workshop. It's promoted, and it can't run unless you've got 6 people. No, that's again, she'd have different hours every week. We're not letting them start. Yeah, that's exactly right. Artists are getting this. We've got to pay. So what it is because the magazine is as well, it makes it very difficult to showcase all those artists and what we can. So we can only, what we could do is, specific to an event running in the winter, that we might be able to go, which one would you want to really promote? You might have to then start to think about where you want to issue.
And obviously, in summer, we might put under leather by Aura, and in winter, we put it in under.
Yes, that's exactly right. So you have to just think about how you would do
under any other name.
Right. Right, okay. So the problem we have, and it's obviously not mine, it's more of Sally, who I'm sure she'd be able to answer a lot better than me. From a PR perspective, this is not just free advertising. So we try to share the love where we can. Because we can't give it to everyone and say,
but it's sharing the love with those that play the rage, or sharing the love with everyone in the community is where we come down.
No, sharing the love with everyone in the community. Because most people, you get references. Yeah, you do get references. We do preference.
They're expensive. Well, this page is free. Yeah, but if you are, like my friend spent $2,000 on advertising in that, and she didn't get anything.
We do that.
They're not getting put in here last year, I think it was. It was Sally Angelina, and she was doing Eagle Dreams.
Oh yes, so I
We have a ridiculous amount of being mad, but we don't, last time we did not get a single hint of that hit. And yet, this is the page everyone goes to, and this is the page people present to us and tell us you're not in here. And they're like, oh, where are the ones we actually take?
Interesting.
So we're saying, well,
Maybe, if we're doing this collaborative, you know, a bit of a feedback approach, then, no, but seriously,
and it is a partnership.
It's mutually beneficial. I used to be working in a nurse as a nurse university. Then I was working higher people, so
yeah, it does.
So then we maybe think about having, maybe a cost-effective packaging.
So one of the things that we're thinking about, because classes and workshops were becoming so popular, we were actually thinking of charging people. We don't want to do that. We want to give them to preference paying clients. We can do exactly. And how much would you pay? I love it, but there are, we do obviously we try to, and we do
do actually say, in a lot of cases, I say, unless you're a paid partner, I can't help you. If we see any business and we want to, we do strategically work with them. That's how we do it. That's how business works. One of the things that I would strongly recommend is signing up with classes and workshops in Victoria, which you can get the ATDW code. Yeah, wonderful. Yeah, that's so fabulous. And I think then you can just go in to the dashboard, upload all your events, and you can have as many classes and workshops in there as you want. So yeah, which is great.
I got 2 before.
Yeah. So what we need to do is really think about like what you pay. If we were to say let's charge for this, because this section would then become real massive. Because everyone's going, well, I'm going to do 3 or 4 of my classes and workshops. It's going to run through in one edition, like say for winter, how many would you do? Oh, I see. Okay. So you're looking at
And then the classes and workshops you then have to So what you're saying is that if you think what you're doing should be
what I want to do is have a beneficial word that is an it's a valuable, it's actually probably a good time to take, and we don't charge for it. So maybe we reverse that. Start charging for that, and we're out, so it's cheaper, like $100. So next the chocolate meal, which needs 2,000 people a year going through that. Yeah, so we've got to think of some ways to collaborate to actually share it.
That's hence we've got the time. It's crazy. There's no reason that this can't change, so I'll just take that on board. And I'll chat to Sal as well, because that's her little
We don't talk to the English. It can be interesting actually to see. It's good, interesting times. It'll work out. You need tomato, it'll sort out.
Or do you need it more from a PR, like social, things like that? Yeah, marketing. Okay. Well, we do. Sally Garrity works with us. Yeah, that's right. She's quite amazing, and she does workshops and things that help people with that side of the business. So the social side, so Instagram, Facebook, and things like that. So would that be something that would help?
Not so much
No, just marketing.
Marketing space. What you do
yeah, exactly. Where do you spend? And we know we have to pay. We may know someone that works with us, so that's something, because I've only just started, I only started this with Steve as well, so bear with me. But what I can do is I can find out. That's exactly right. I know, yeah, that's exactly right. So, I will follow up. I think Steve might know. Steve, business mentors in region, or somebody that you can think of that might be able to help you with marketing or business structure.
Email me with what you need help with, and either I'll try and help because I'm a bit marked out, or I'll...
Oh, you got it.
So just shoot me an email. Well, just tell me what, yeah.
We just, when we asked elsewhere, we were pushed to things like, what's Milton's company?
Action coaching and it just wasn't quite what we needed.
Well, they're a bit big.
Oh yeah, you're like, no.
Because pretty much at the moment, I'm running a quarter acre building by myself.
That'd be fun.
Yeah, it's great fun, and I've been doing it for 10 years now.
Are you feet tired by the end of the day?
Get your steps up.
Oh, yeah.
Do not either call me or email me. Take it away. Just outline specifically what you need.
That would be awesome. Thank you.
Lovely to chat to you. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. Right, we'll chat. And if there's anything you need, let me know. And thanks for the feedback with classes and workshops.
No, that's okay.
It's very valuable. I loaded up the car to take magazines. Yes.
Oh, yeah. Have you got the new ones?
Yes, I do. In the car.
Because I've only got the old ones.
You gave away all the ones on the weekend as well.
Oh, yeah,
yes,
we
I've
went
got
to
a bootleg.
one of our studios went to
And obviously you respect what she says. Yeah. Yeah, no, she is. Yeah. Yeah. Thanks. Anyway, thank you for coming.
On the laptop, Control B or B? No, girls can just put their iPad in.
On here you can actually that. You can put the projector on.
I'm still reading. B
Very nice to meet you, right? Thanks. Nice to meet you, John. Yeah, good to see you, man. No, I was going to say, did you know a guy called Grant Saltmarsh? He was at Castlemaine. Alright, that's Grant's dad, I reckon. Grant moved, he and his wife moved to Castlemaine. We knew them in Macedon, our kids are the same age. But Grant died. He died about 5-7 years ago. He was a landscape gardener. Good. All right. Well, safe trip. Thank you for coming.
Are these
Yes.
There's nothing to hold you back. Right. Has not got you members? Yeah.
Well, sort of half in the year after.
Yeah, good. You do the. I don't think actually DMT has members. It has partners. Yeah, marketing partners or whatever. Yeah.